All right. Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
All right. Well, we are ready. So, just go.
Go.
Hello and welcome to the Rebels Cast. I'm your host, Nick Weymouth, and with me as always is the one, the only, the splendiferous
Cal Ripken Jr.
Star of video games like Cal Ripken Jr. Baseball and Super Mario Brothers. Man, that was, he's one of the Goombas. He's Goomba number 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. I loved your baseball game.
Thank you.
Yeah. You know, some people would be like, baseball player, and I'm like, star of video game.
Right.
Because that's the kind of person I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Cal Ripken.
Yeah.
What does your mama call you?
Josh Shaw.
Oh, no. Just bring in the whole...
Always got to ruin the joke.
That's right. Got to ruin the joke. Got to bring the mood down. We're going to talk about Red Bulls. So, it's just going to... No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, so we are glad to have you with us. It has been a long time, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And we apologize for that. We've had things happening.
I apologize for nothing.
I regret nothing. Well, so never mind. We don't regret anything, but nonetheless, welcome back.
Yeah.
Like Carter.
Carter.
Mr. Carter.
It always sounds like welcome back, Carter.
Yeah. It's like, but saying it with that accent is like, welcome back, Carter. Carter. Carter.
Yeah.
He's like, but no, it's Carter.
Yeah.
And it's not Qatar either.
No.
And it's not Atari.
No.
I don't know that anybody thought it was welcome back, Atari. Welcome back. Whoop. It's Pac-Man.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's the guy. The yellow guy.
That's the guy. He's eating the dots.
Yeah. Doop, 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 doop.
That's right. And in the arcade, it's like, it's like, which it's funny. Have you seen there's like a GIF or a GIF or whatever, and it's Pac-Man, and then like the thing, and he's eating, and the thing is, take your finger in and out of your ear, because if you do that, it actually kind of sounds like the sound of him eating.
It does, yeah.
Uh-huh. You're doing it right now, aren't you, folks? Put your finger in your ear, move it in and out, and it sounds like the waka waka sound that he makes when he eats the...
That's crazy. I wonder if I did that on purpose.
I wonder.
Like somebody started doing that and be like, that's the sound.
That's going to be the sound of Pac-Man. And it's like, who's Pac-Man? I don't know yet, but that's the sound. Predated video games. Someone did that in the 30s. They just had to wait for technology to get up to speed to be able to make Pac-Man.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like in Pixels, like, order my son Pac-Man, and then he eats his hand. I haven't even seen Pixels, but I saw that part. People were like, movie's horrible. Maybe it is, but that part was funny. So I don't know. But what was it? We were talking about Pac-Man and Waka Waka Waka, and the Atari and Qatar,
Yeah,
and all that.
Yeah.
Yep. But anyway, so
we should probably just for a minute, just for one, say why we've been gone so long.
Yes.
And really a lot of it just has to do with holiday junk.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff like that, and finding the time to do it. We were going to do an episode 2 weeks ago, but our friend Todd came over.
Yep.
And the Rebels thing is not really something. I don't know. We don't know how well he's keeping up with it. I mean, and then we've got our sporadicness of keeping up with it. So we probably weren't on the same page, Rebels wise.
Exactly. And the Switch, Nintendo Switch reveal information had just happened, and we wanted to get an interdorked out about that. Mm-hmm. So that we did that instead. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we've had several. My stepdad, although growing up, I just thought of him as dad. He and mom married when I had just finished third grade, So, and my actual biological dad died when I was 9 months old. So it's not like I didn't know that he was my stepdad and then found out. I knew, but I just kind of thought of him as dad. But he died actually a month ago today. It was an accident, a fire accident out in his shop, and so that I think the Saturday that was like 2 days before his funeral was one of the days we were supposed to record.
Day,
So so that kind of played a part of it too. So it's several things have transpired. To keep us from you, but like Mr. Cotter, we are back. Yep. And so we're actually going to talk about three.
Actually, we got to talk about something else too.
What?
We just got to mention the fact that we saw Rogue One.
Oh, well, yeah, no, we're going to do that. I was going to tell him.
Well, I wanted to tell him now.
Okay. What's that from? I won't tell him now. That's from something. Or it reminds me of something. I won't tell him now. Well, tell him.
I want to tell him about Rogue One.
Yeah, we'll tell him.
We saw it.
Yeah.
We liked it.
We did like it.
Okay, Rebels.
Yeah. We actually liked it more than we liked episode 7.
That's true.
Yep. Even though it was in one sense more derivative is not the right word, but I mean, it takes place right before episode 4, so
it made sense for it to be a derivative.
Yeah, it's like there's lots more things that so I've seen that design before from episode 4. Well, yeah, exactly, because this is like right before episode 4. So those things made sense, but then the story itself felt more original than episode 7.
Yes.
And the whole thing just felt more Star Wars-ish. And I know that's partially because it did take place.
Well, there was a lot of new things. It was a new story. Mm-hmm. Even though we knew how that story ended, it was a new story.
Yep.
It wasn't a rehash of anything. Mm-hmm. The characters, we didn't necessarily like we thought the characters were okay.
Yeah, but
we weren't like, the characters in episode 7 are better.
Yes, we like the characters in episode 7 better. We connected with them more.
But there might have been, without going into spoiler territory, there might have been a reason why we didn't like these characters as much.
Exactly. And so the characters were sort of scored lower in our minds than the episode 7 characters did, but the story scored higher than the episode 7 story.
Yeah.
The music, of course, did not score as high.
No.
The music was good.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Nothing necessarily overly memorable, but, I mean, that's Michael Giaccapuccino up against John Williams.
Right.
That's... Yeah. You kind of know... You have a feeling how that one's going to go.
Yeah.
In terms of the effects, I mean, I thought the effects in episode 7 were good, but boy, the effects in Rogue One were good.
Yeah.
But you had John Knoll, and from a production design standpoint, you had Doug Chiang.
Right.
So the new ships felt right. But that's because Doug Chiang has been designing for Star Wars
for a long time.
I mean, Essential Guide to Vehicles and Vessels. I mean, he designed the Outrider.
Yep.
So that only makes sense. But I felt like for me about midway through the movie, like the first half of the movie, I'm like, okay, yeah, I like this pretty well. I mean, I'm not. But then from about halfway through the movie on to the end, I'm like, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
that is tight.
Yeah, and from my understanding, George Lucas liked it a lot too,
and that
says a lot. Yeah,
yep.
And we know how he felt about episode 7, so
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's like that's how you do it. It's like okay, yeah, we'll put some of the trappings in of the Star Wars universe that are appropriate to the time frame, but we're going to tell a story that is not. I mean, you put Rogue One up against episode 7, and the rippy-offiness of episode 7 and the potential that it was designed as a cash grab is more apparent.
Yep.
Rogue One just feels more Star Wars-ish. Mm-hmm. And again, I know it's partially easier for it to do it because there's Darth Vader and there's X-Wings and there's TIE fighters and there's all those things.
In that movie.
So
like good. The big scene that he had.
So good. So good. So good.
Ooh-wee.
Ooh-wee, baby. And so, it makes it easier in that. But, what? Episode 7 had Han and Luke and Leia and R2 and 3PO and Chewie. So it had, I think, just as much potential to feel that's Star Wars, even though it was 30 years after Episode 6. Mm-hmm. But it didn't, even though it's like, well, but look, we've got a desert planet, and look, we've got the Millennium Falcon, and look, but it's like, it just didn't as much. Whereas
it felt like that movie a lot of times felt like it was like, ooh, look at this thing we put in here.
Yeah,
look at the Falcon. Look at the X-wings. Look at all this stuff. Like Rogue One didn't have any of that.
It's just like
look at this thing.
Yeah, it's just like, here's a Star Wars story.
It's like, we all know. I don't think it's a spoiler that Tarkin's in the movie.
Yeah.
And that to me didn't even come across like, look who it is. It's Tarkin.
Yeah. Well, it's like John Knoll said. He's like, given what Tarkin's relationship to the Death Star project was, you can't tell a story about the Death Star plans being stolen.
Yep.
And thus the Imperial part of that story without having Tarkin involved. You just can't do it. No. And so it was very important for them to be able to bring him in. And they got Peter Cushing his estate's blessing. And it was sort of done with their approval and all that.
A lot of people didn't. They thought it didn't look good.
I thought it looked fine.
I thought it looked fine too. I mean, you could tell it was not Peter Cushing,
right?
And it was a CG face. At times.
Yeah, there were times when...
if there was any kind of low-light shots,
fine,
you couldn't tell that wasn't a real guy at all.
Yeah, exactly. It was very well done. And the actor and the animators, to whatever extent they might have, tweaked the mocap data, did a great job of capturing Cushing's mannerisms as Tarkin. I mean, it just felt right.
Did the guy that do his voice?
No, it was not the guy that do his voice on the animated side of things.
Oh, okay.
It was, I forgot the actor's name, but
he did a really good job.
And it was the actor that was doing the mocap. I mean,
okay.
Yeah, that's who it was. Yeah, so it was a different person, but yeah, he because Stanton, I'm blanking on his first name. Was it Steve? I think maybe. Is Tarkin in the animated world, but I forgot the name of the actor that did it in Rogue One. But he did a great job.
Yeah, he did.
And of course, you had Mr. Tudyk playing a robot again,
Yep.
and he did a good job. He was probably my favorite of the new characters.
I think he was a lot of people's favorite character.
Yeah. And again, that's partially just because he's a great actor, and the part was it was especially given all the parts in that movie. It's like that was the most fun part in that movie. But
I thought he was good. I thought Mads Mikkelsen was good.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Jyn Erso's father. Galen Erso.
Galen.
And what was the bad guy's name? I kept signing to see. I'm sorry.
That's all right. The bad guy was character we never knew existed.
Yeah, but I liked him.
Yeah, I did too. I mean, like his whole dynamic with the Erso family was interesting.
Yeah.
I liked it, and again, the whole sort of one of the conceits of the movie, and I think one of the germs of the idea that got John Knoll thinking about making it and pitching it, it was done really well in terms of the rationale behind why was there a weakness in the Death Star that could be exploited like that. So I thought that was all good stuff.
Yeah.
The one thing that I feel like from a continuity standpoint, I'll live with it, especially since it's still EU, even though I think it's the best of the new EU for my taste.
Yeah.
But since it's EU, I guess I won't stay up at night about it. But the continuity with how the movie ends, then compared to the text in the opening crawl is fine, because the text in the opening crawl says they just scored their first major victory against the Empire and have gotten the plans to the Death Star. Okay, yeah, that's right. But it's what Vader says about, you weren't on any mercy mission this time. And she's like, oh no, we're on a diplomatic mission on the way to Alderaan. And again, not to spoil it, but just to say there is no real reason why Leia should have any expectation that Vader would believe that.
Right.
Given what happens at the end of Rogue One. But in Episode 4, without Rogue One, you kind of get the impression that the victory that was recently scored wasn't recently scored like 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
And that thus there is some plausible deniability to when he's like, you're a part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. She could be like, no, what are you talking about? So it kind of, and the fact that he's like, you weren't on any mercy mission this time suggests that that's what the cover story was being for why the Tantive was where it was to receive the transmission. Because he says, you weren't on any mercy mission this time. Several transmissions were beamed to this ship by rebel spies. I want to know what happened to the plans they sent you. That suggests that, again, the cover story was that they were on a mercy mission. Yeah. There is, again, without getting spoiled, there is no way that it would be in any sense reasonable for the rebels to claim that the Tantive 4 was where it was when it received the plans for the Death Star because it was on a mercy mission.
Yeah.
It just does not work.
Yeah.
And so there is a little continuity issue there. But again, given that it's an EU story and, George didn't do it, I'm like, okay, and in my head canon, I can just, ignore that part of it.
Yeah. I've got to go blow my nose.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Okay, you do that, and I guess we'll pause. The pause. And Josh has returned.
Yes.
Yes. So, what else to say about Rogue One? At some point, maybe we'll talk more in detail about it, but...
Well, we talked a little bit about the music.
Right.
But it's the first Star Wars feature film, live-action feature film, without John Williams.
Yes.
And how do you think Mr. Giacchino handled it?
For me, I would say that in one sense, for a good, decent chunk of the movie, I think he probably did about as well as anybody could. In terms of the fact that he does do things that sound John Williams-esque when it comes to underscore that is of a more incidental nature.
Uh-huh.
In terms of themes that were original to him,
they weren't that great.
No, I would be hard pressed to say that no composer could have done better. And again, I've said this before. That's my thing with Mike Cappuccino. Is I think he's a very competent composer and does some good stuff. But from a melody theme standpoint, he's just, for me personally, it's just personal preference. He's never done anything that's really been overly impressive to me.
Yeah.
And so, and the same was the case here. So I thought that the music, worked, but it wasn't ooh la la to me. What about for you?
Well, his little title screen, like fanfare thing, like that sounded to me, no kidding. And I don't like the whole, I cringed or I cringe-worthy or anything. I don't like that whole thing that's cliched and stupid. But
that having been said,
like that little piece of music sounded like something you would hear, like in like a Star Wars parody film.
When you can't use
the real music,
so you get something that's a sound-alike that's kind of. It's like the when How It Should Have Ended. Does a Star Wars movie or any film, they kind of do a kind of sound alike, but it's not overly impressively produced because that's not the point of those videos.
Right.
That is kind of how it felt. Like it was like, okay, you are going to start off with a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Okay, that's cool. What are you going to do? And then like the music played, I'm like, ooh, really?
Yeah.
Put the main theme in it, even if it's not the whole blah, 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 blah. It just that little thing that you're doing, incorporate the Star Wars main theme in there instead of this, again, sort of generic, it's in the vein of a certain movie that Lucasfilm makes about wars in stars, but we can't say it.
Here's what I think they should do going forward.
Mm-hmm.
I think they should pull a Nobuo Uematsu thing.
Yeah.
Basically where you have these different composers doing the music for the side story movies, but you get John Williams to write the main theme of that movie.
Yes.
Like, and you use that theme that he wrote
in that film.
You know, that way he doesn't have to compose an entire score for the movie.
Right.
Just
I like it.
Throw him the main theme and say, go with this one.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's great because people, you know, there are very few people that can write themes the way John Williams can.
Right.
One might argue that no one can, even if other people write themes that you like as well. There's just something about John that other people don't really. And again, today in film music, the lesser claim, or maybe it's the greater claim, but that in general, people just don't write themes that are that impressive. Sort of, that seems to me to be where Hollywood music is right now. Anyway, you just don't get a lot of theme writing.
Rick Beato will tell you that one.
It's such a good video. It really exceeded my expectations. It's like, wow, he's going there.
Seriously, like, I mean, and not to be, negative Nancy's or anything like that, but look up a guy named Rick Beato.
Spelled like Beato, like beat a drum and then an O at the end, but it's pronounced Beato.
And look up his video called "How to Write." How to compose or how to write?
Yeah. Like you could look it up this way and you'd find it. Yeah,
yeah, like how to write music like Hans Zimmer,
like Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard from Batman.
Yeah, The Dark Knight.
Yeah,
just The Dark Knight.
Just The Dark Knight. Yeah. So look that up. And it's because what it is, he has several videos in this series where he looks at, film composers and kind of breaks down some of the musical motifs and sort of strategies that various composers use. So he's got one on John Williams, and he talks about some of the structures that John Williams uses. He has two on David Newman, who was the composer for The Shawshank Redemption and Cinderella Man, Road to Perdition, that sort of. He does a lot of stuff with Frank Darabont. He's got, I think he's got maybe a couple of others, and he's going to be doing some others. But so he breaks down the music of The Dark Knight with those two composers, and
we laughed.
It was because the thing is, here's the thing about Mr. Beato is that he has experience in the sort of popular music world with rock, like Shinedown and things like that. And he's got a video where he talks about some of the mixing techniques of sort of famous rock mixing artists and engineers like Randy Staub and several others. And so he does all that stuff, but then he has videos talking about the Aeolian mode and the and the Dorian scale and the Lydian, and
he really knows his stuff,
really knows his theory. And so he's talking about, when he's talking about John Williams, he's talking about spread triads and tritone apart and all of this sort of stuff. So I was curious, given the sort of depth of his sort of musical interest and the way that he breaks these things down, and he's a guy that likes music and in many forms. He also apparently is interested in jazz. But I was just very curious when I saw that he had this video about James Newton Howard and Hans Zimmer in particular. And so we started to watch it, and from the very beginning, and he's not like explicitly, overtly, judgment call-y. Like, let me tell you how this is horrible, or let me tell you how this is great. It's just, he's doing what he does in these videos where he's analyzing and breaking down the structure and the ideas of what's going on. But
the problem is, he don't have nothing to break down.
It's like, okay, so
like, let me show you how ostinatos work.
Yeah, it's like, so here's this ostinato, and it's basically an A minor chord. It's the A minor triad, and it's like da 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 da. And he kind of goes through that, and there's something on it. And then the next one, he's like, okay, so here's the next ostinato, and this one's in a different key. And it's, you can't argue with him because he's looking at the music and analyzing it, and
What was the really good one was when he had done a mock-up of of a Q from The Dark Knight.
Yep.
And he was like, I did that in about 3 minutes.
Yep. And it's like,
Yep. So did Hans Zimmer.
Yep. It's wonderful. And he's not being like, he's not nearly as overtly jerkish about it as we are when we talk about Hans Zimmer. But
you can tell he's not a fan.
Yeah. And again, the facts speak for themselves when, he's looking at David Newman. He's like, he'll use a major chord, but also include the minor third in it. And he's doing, and so he's breaking these things down and he's excited about them. He's interested. He's like, look, this thing that he's doing is really cool. Yeah. And it's like, when you analyze Hans Zimmer music, there's just not that much to do. There just is not that much to do. No. Now, are there other scores that Hans Zimmer has done where there's more to look out? Yeah, there really are. Yeah. There's more to look at, I would argue, with Interstellar.
Mm-hmm.
Or even some of his older stuff like Driving Miss Daisy or The Lion King.
Yeah.
There's actual stuff going on there. Right. But what he has been known for, what he has become known for, what his fanboys love, just when you break it down musically, there's just not that much there.
Mm-mm. Nope.
So, and the thing is, you were saying that one of the guys from Dark Pixel was talking about Hans Zimmer, and he said the thing that he liked about Hans Zimmer's music was
it's kind of the minimalist attitude where you're just like, okay, I'm not gonna show off my musical skills or nothing like that. I'm just going to serve whatever scene I'm scoring to in the movie.
Just distill it down to the most efficient way to get to the emotion.
Right.
The general emotion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm putting words in that guy's mouth.
That's basically what he was talking about.
It's like, it's not a complex, rich, nuanced emotion. Right. It's, I'm energetic, or I'm scared, or I'm happy.
Yeah. And, his thing was, that he liked that sort of thing about it. And, that's cool. I do think it's odd coming from him, being someone who I know good and well, like, digs on melody and things like that, since he's really big into video game music, particularly, JRPGs and things like that.
For him to be like,
I'm not really concerned about, about the actual musical part of music. It's just like, well, that's kind of, for lack of a better term, inconsistent.
Right.
But, to each his own.
Yeah. It's almost like he would watch Rick's video and be like, you're kind of...
You're telling me what I already know. Why are you mad about it?
Yeah, well, you're trying to hide your smirks and stuff, but I can see that you're not really impressed with this, but I like it. I like that there's not that much to, explore or analyze. But, we were talking about it, and, it's almost like... I don't mean disrespect when I say this, but it's almost like for some fans of Hans Zimmer, it's underscore, it's music for people that really aren't that much into music.
Yeah.
And it's...
Well, and there's a thing too, and maybe this is kind of in Mike, the guy from Dark Pixel, maybe it's in his defense, but maybe it's not necessarily you're not into music. You're just like, okay, music, in my idea, my vision of the way music should work in a movie is to do what Hans Zimmer does.
Yeah.
Is to, people are supposed to be watching the movie. Because, the thing about this guy, about all the Dark Pixel guys, they're filmmakers.
Yeah.
Or at least they're aspiring filmmakers, and they've done a lot of professional work and stuff. But, maybe that's his idea as a director and writer. Yeah,
I don't want a bunch of fancy stuff that's going to distract from...
Exactly. I want people to watch my movie.
Which is funny because...
It's distracting to me, yeah. I agree.
Wow. I'm like, oh, there's the wow.
Yeah.
And I'm out of the movie, and I'm looking at myself looking at the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's the thing. Again, it's subjective. It's to each his own. But...
It ain't what we like.
It is. And it's like we were talking about earlier... as we were having that discussion, Hans Zimmer's music, at least for us, is not the sort of music that we really would find interesting to listen to apart from listening to it as we're watching the movie.
Right.
Like just putting in a CD and listening to it, there's just not that much going on to sort of carry the attention.
Nick and I have been to several, as probably many of you have, but Nick and I have been to several live performances of movie music.
Yeah.
By an orchestra. And as far as I can remember, none of the ones we've been to have had Hans Zimmer music.
Not that I'm aware of.
But, there's probably a reason for that, and that is it's probably not that interesting for an orchestra to play.
Yeah.
Like, you mentioned the thing when we were talking about that earlier today, you mentioned the thing about Michael Kamen and the S&M Metallica symphony thing. And, he was talking about, composing parts for the orchestra, and he's sitting there at his keyboard, and he's like, I can play this chord, over what they're doing, over what Metallica's doing, but that's not very interesting for an orchestra to play. So the way I compose that is I take that chord and I start adding lines and things like that in it and different string parts. When an orchestra plays live, it's like you want the orchestra to enjoy what they're doing.
Right.
So they can put on a good show for people. And when you're sitting there and all you're doing is beating on drums to a specific rhythm, and you've got arpeggios repeating over and over and over again, and then every once in a while the brass comes in and goes swell. It's like an orchestra don't care about that.
Yeah,
and most people aren't going to want to listen to that apart from seeing it in a movie.
Right, because it just doesn't have as much. There's not as much going on to be able to carry itself on its own. Yeah. And again, it's a stylistic preference, but for Josh and I, we want the kind of film underscore we like is the kind that serves the scene well, but also is interesting in its own right.
Yep.
And for us, often that does not have to require a melody, but melody is often one of the components.
Yeah.
You think about like "Here They Come" from episode 4. That doesn't really necessarily have a melody. I mean, you've got the Imperial fanfare repeating, and the whole thing's hummable, but there's not like a melody per se.
Right.
But then you think about the asteroid chase from Empire Strikes Back, and there are a couple of melodies in that.
Yep.
And then you think about like imagine.
Well, and we talked about that a little bit earlier today too. Is like you kind of have these ancillary. I don't know.
Ancillary. However you pronounce it. Syllabically.
You have things like that in movie scores. You have stuff that's kind of like fillers to connect the dots.
Yeah.
Like your dot might be, big melody, character's theme or something like that. But between that, you've got kind of, maybe just, kind of string swells or something like that, or maybe a flute goes toodaloo. Toodaloo. You've got lines that connect those dots.
Yeah.
With Hans Zimmer's scores, basically all his scores are lines.
Is that, yeah.
They're none of the dots are there.
You never get to, it's like I've said before about the score to Man of Steel. It's like what Hans wrote with the basically what he would refer to as the Superman Man of Steel theme. I feel like, you've got a good, bass going there.
Yeah.
Now write the melody.
Yeah.
And then now let's play around with it. It's like he never gets to that. And so imagine something like the climax of E.T. as scored by Hans Zimmer. Could Hans Zimmer have found a way to get to the emotion of when the bike chase starts to happen? You get that. This is what John actually wrote, and then there's a melody. Bum bum ba da da bum 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 bum.
Yeah.
Could Hans Zimmer have written some music there that carries sort of the excitement of the kids escaping and then they're flying? Because when they actually start to fly, then it goes right in the E.T. main thing. Could he have done that? Yes, but would it have been as memorable?
Right. Well, see, and that's another thing that composers like John Williams do, composers like Alan Silvestri do. It's not just about the visual that you're seeing on screen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for them, it's like, okay, what is the emotion that this character might be feeling?
Right.
As the bike's taking flight and things like that. I'm going to get into the character's head and project that out to the audience through music.
Right. Through music with complexity and nuance.
Right. Whereas with Hans Zimmer, it's like, I can't listen to, like, as I'm watching that movie and I'm listening to the score as the movie's going on, it's like the music may fit the visuals, but I don't know what Batman's thinking.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah, I think that's a very great point. I mean, you think about even like a score that Hans Zimmer did that I'm a little bit more tolerant of than many of his other scores, and that's just because his usual shtick works a little better in that movie, and that's Interstellar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But even then, it's not as though the music gives me an idea about what Coop's feeling,
right,
about his daughter, or about Brand, or about the brilliant Dr. Mann. It fits the visuals, and it fits the plot concerns of the moment, but it doesn't give character insight.
Yep.
And then plus, again, being Melody fans, it's like I like the idea that there is a theme that I can then associate with characters.
Yep.
So it's
I
like
can hum later.
Yeah, so it's like when E.T. and Elliot are having their goodbye and da 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 da, and then that music is playing, over the credits, and then when 30 years later I hear it again, it's not just, well, I heard chugga 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 and I think Batman.
Yeah. Right.
There's a theme that recalls the adventure of that story.
Exactly. Yeah.
Bum 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 bum. That fits. That encapsulates the adventures that Doc and Marty had over those three movies. But could Hans Zimmer have captured the emotion of, or the visuals of what's going on when Doc and Marty are saying their farewells in part 3? Yes. But would it have had the same complexity and character, connection like you're talking about? I'm not saying that Hans Zimmer could not do it. I'm just saying I've never seen him do it.
Like, I mean, I don't doubt that, that the dude can probably compose music. I mean, we know he can by stuff like The Lion King.
I think, to me, that's his best score when it comes to that sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, so we know he can do it. It's just the thing, he just doesn't do it anymore.
How crazy would it be if Hans Zimmer don't like Hans Zimmer music? If he's like, I did this, because it was kind of a different thing. I was working with Jerry Bruckheimer. We wanted to try something a little bit different. We did it. Everybody loves it. Now that's all I'm known for, and that's all that I am allowed to do. Because, he said, I'm not doing superhero movies anymore. And, of course, we're like, yay. But it's like, how crazy would it be if he sees all these kids on message boards, and here I am being mean and assuming they're all kids. They're like, Hans Zimmer stuff's the best, and he's like, really? No, it's not. I don't know. But again, I mean, to each his own. But it and they're like, they're talking about Hans Zimmer again. Yeah, we are. It's what we do.
But it's all based on the Michael Giacoppuccino,
right?
And his score, and it's kind of that way. I mean, it's not. It's stylistically, it's not, but it's still, like, to me, when I use my analogy of dots and lines, dots being big points in the score. To me, the score of Rogue One feels like a bunch of lines.
Yeah,
it's like it feels like a bunch of filler music.
Never gets to the set.
Yeah,
piece.
It never gets to the point.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. John Williams has done that in the Star Wars scores. So that, I mean, if you listen to the, for example, the Ultimate Edition score for Episode 1, now, I mean, I think all that music is quality, but certainly there are parts in that score that are just, it's like the music when they're having the second Jedi Council meeting at night, and, the boy will not be trained. He's too old, There's music going on there. It's not set piece music.
Right.
And again, I would argue that John Williams' line music is better than lots of other
I agree.
Dot music. But still, it's like there's those lines, but then the dots are Duel of the Fates. Across the Stars, Battle of the Heroes,
Ray's theme.
Yeah, Ray's theme. The asteroid chase music from not only from Empire Strikes Back, but also the Empire Strikes Back music from Attack of the Clones. The asteroid music from Attack of the Clones. The Jango Fett Obi-Wan battle out in the rain.
Yep.
The escaping from Naboo music from Episode 1. You get in Episode 4, and of course, Here They Come, and then the whole suite of music. I mean, the entire Death Star music is one big dot.
Yep.
To use that sort of terminology, you get to Episode 5. Of course, you've got the Hoth music. Mm-hmm. You've got the asteroid chase music. You've got those I think are the big ones.
Yeah.
In that one, but even then,
you got Yoda's theme.
You got Yoda's theme in there.
Cloud City.
The Cloud City music. Mm-hmm. I mean, you've got those
Imperial March.
Yeah, there's that thing. And it does have a pretty full appearance in the film.
Yes.
So it's not just a theme that's used. I mean, there's a bit of the theme, the arrangement.
There's always in each Star Wars movie except for I can't really think of one for Episode 1. Mm-hmm. But there's always the one big one.
A Duel of the Fates.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's what. Well, that's right. I forgot about that. My bad. But yeah, you always have the big featured one.
Yeah, exactly. And then in Episode 6, you've got the Let's Kill Jabba the Hutt battle.
Yep.
You've got the
the piece of music. In my opinion, the piece of music is a dot that he never used again. The ba 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 ba.
Yep, like that little fanfare. Yep. Uh-huh. Yeah. You've got the forced battle music.
Yep.
You've got the special edition celebration music.
Super Pimp.
Yes, very much so.
That was the title of it.
Super Pimp.
John Williams. Super Pimp.
Exactly. You got it. But yeah, I mean, so there's all these set pieces. Again, go back to Empire Strikes Back. You've got Seagull, Stop It Now. And it's not a little music can't help. That's my phone's messaging. We have a dog now, and Liz texted. She said, "Y'all are driving Troy crazy. I'm about to send her up with you." We'll try to be quieter for the dog's sake. But yeah, Seagulls, Stop It Now. I loved Rogue One, but Seagulls, Stop It Now is my favorite bit of Star Wars from 2016.
Wow.
Just so because it's such condensed awesomeness. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So you've got all the set pieces. Mm-hmm. And again, Episode 7, you've got Rey's theme, but you've also got the Resistance, march. You've got, that's really the two there. The escaping Jakku on the Falcon music is kind of set piecey. Yeah. But yeah, Rogue One, you just never got there.
No.
It was just, it was good quality lines, but it was lines.
And the stuff where he would use John's themes were good.
Yeah. And it's funny, because there's a part where he used bump, 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 ba na na, na na na, ba like for Vader. I'm like, I know that when Episode 4 was written, John Williams had not yet written the Imperial March, but he's used it in the prequel, so don't feel like you can't use it, Michael. Yeah. And then there's a part later on where he uses it, and I'm like, okay, good.
There you go.
And I will give Michael credit. Like, he used the Death Star motif
at the right place.
At the right places. Yeah. Bah, 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 bah. And not everybody even really picks up on it's like that there is a Death Star theme, but it's just a few notes. But there is one, and he used it, and I was like, very good. That's very nice. Mm-hmm. But I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you anything that's like, oh yeah, but here's this thing that he wrote for it, and there wasn't that.
Yeah.
The way that Episode 7, it's like, I got to give me some Rey's theme.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
So that's Rogue One.
That's Rogue One and Hans Zimmer. We'll get into our 3 episodes of Rebels here in a minute, but
we got the other.
We got to mention this other thing, talking about more Star Wars EU. The subtitle for Episode 8 has been announced, and what is it?
The Last Jedi.
And what are your thoughts on this title, Joshua?
I know I just seem like a negative Nancy about Star Wars nowadays. But the simple fact is I don't really care for it. Mm-hmm. I don't care for it depending on what it's referring to.
Right.
And it being, the first real bit of information we've received about episode 8, it doesn't give me a whole lot of hope. I think if The Last Jedi is referring to Luke post first third of Return of the Jedi, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Because, we know, that, as of right now, he is the last Jedi.
Yeah, especially if, all the ones he was training were killed. It's like from that point he was the last Jedi. There were some others, but they all died, so he's still the last Jedi.
Yeah. And, if it's referring to Rey, I don't like that. And I really, to be perfectly honest, the more I've thought about it, I really don't even like it if it's referring to Luke that much.
Yeah.
Because basically what you're doing by making that the title of the movie, you're reaffirming, hey, the main crux of the last trilogy, chronologically, is the same crux of this story.
Yeah.
And it's like, no. I don't want that.
We've already done that, Disney.
Yeah, and it's like, and episode 8 is not the start of it. Episode 7 started that. If that's going to be their crux. Episode 7 started it. And it's something that, as I've thought about it, is something else I don't like about episode 7.
Yeah.
Because they basically did a what would you call that in film terms? Because it's not necessarily a flashback. It's not necessarily it's not even Star Wars terms. It's not even an echo. But basically, you had the Clone Wars, or after the Clone Wars and after Episode 3, hunt down the Jedi and kill them. Sometime between Episode 6 and Episode 7, Luke trained some new Jedi,
but they were hunted
down and killed.
Yep. And so it's like Episode 4, Episode 7. It's both after a bunch of Jedi have been hunted down and killed.
Yeah, and it's like, is that what we think Star Wars is?
Yeah.
Because George Lucas proved to us in episodes 1, 2, and 3 that's not what it's all about.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can do a trilogy of movies without it being the same exact dadgum thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. What if The Last Jedi is referring to Luke and they kill him off, and the whole idea is he was in the Star Wars universe the last Jedi, that going forward there will be no more Jedi. On the one hand, that would be different, and that would be interesting, but then it's well, why is it okay for there to be no more Jedi?
Yeah.
Because I'm very concerned about this notion of taking away the idea that Anakin was the chosen one.
Yeah.
Because, it's clear to me, and it's clear to you, Josh, as you watch the entire saga as it officially exists in 1 through 6 plus the Clone Wars, that that the intention is that Anakin was the chosen one.
Right.
And, of course, then Lucas has also explicitly said that. And he's he was the chosen one. He was going to bring balance to the Force. He did it when he destroyed Palpatine.
The end.
The Mortis trilogy foreshadows this. Yes. That he is the chosen one. And he brought balance in the realm of the Morton and his children. And he will do it in the galaxy at large. Mm-hmm. And so then if somehow it's no, Luke will be the one, and once he brings balance to the Force, he'll end up dying and there will just be no more Jedi. Luke isn't the chosen one. Rey's not the chosen one. Anakin is the chosen one. Now, if you want to bring up some other prophecy, be but there's this other thing, fine. But Anakin was
lame.
It's more ripping offy. But Anakin was the chosen one. So, mm-hmm. That idea that there won't be any more Jedi is kind of a neat idea. On the other hand, it's well, can you really, have the Star Wars universe without Jedi?
Yeah, it wouldn't be. It would definitely kill off my entire interest. For Star Wars.
And I'm done. Yeah. So, yeah, we just at this point we don't know what it means, but given the blatant way in which Episode 7 was. Let's do the same thing over again, but look slicker, and that'll be good enough.
Yeah,
makes me concerned that as you say, there are ways to interpret this title that suggest more non-originality.
Yeah.
And we'll see. I mean, maybe they're. I mean, they say that Trevorrow is really doing something. You know, he's taking it in new places.
Yeah.
But I don't trust J.J. Abrams saying that, because you know, J.J. Abrams told me that that John Harrison was not Khan.
Yeah, he did,
and he was Khan. We all knew he was Khan. And we knew it when you said he was John Harrison. He was Khan, and you were like, we're going to take the existing idea that everybody loved and we're going to make it more slick and do it again. And it was not that good in my personal subjective.
We're talking about
taste.
JJ again.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. So, we'll see. And the fact that the title, the actual Star Wars words are in red.
That's just weird.
It's like, is this suggesting, you know, the bad guys winning? I mean, it's the middle of the trilogy, and it's ripping off. It's time to rip off Empire Strikes Back, so that means the bad guys would be winning.
Of course, Adam Driver says it's not a rehash of Empire Strikes Back,
and I trust Adam Driver
more than JJ
Abrams, partially because he was Matt the radar technician.
Right, that's right.
And he said that Kylo Ren is shredded. He's got an 8-pack. It's like, look, I found Kylo Ren's lightsaber. You don't have to look at it anymore. And that's the thing again. I will give the props in the Episode 7 realm. Those are great characters, and those actors did a great job. And Adam Driver's also hilarious.
Yeah, very, very, very.
And that's not to say that the others are not, because John Boyega was hilarious, but John Boyega got to be hilarious in the movie.
Right.
You know, because Finn is sort of humorous. Kylo Ren was not, but then you get to see Adam Driver in Saturday Night Live, and it's like, that's good.
The best thing Saturday Night Live had done in a long time.
Done in a long time.
And since.
Long time. Oh, and speaking of long time and stuff, did we mention this on the podcast last time, even though it was just the inner dorkdom? That old Obi-Wan is showing up.
No, we did not mention this.
And he's not voiced by James Arnold Taylor.
Nope.
He's also not voiced by Ewan McGregor.
Nope.
He's actually voiced by what's his face? It's Stanton. It's the same guy that does Tarkin.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Animated Tarkin is going to be the voice of Obi-Wan, and it is like we had said, you know, when we kind of issued our apology in a sense, we're like, well, given when Rebels takes place, this would be old Alec Guinness Obi-Wan, and so it doesn't necessarily need to be Ewan, and since James's Obi-Wan is more Ewan-esque.
But the thing, he can do old Obi-Wan. We've heard him do
That's the thing. It's like, he can, and he would have done very well, and could have brought... He could have done that sort of cross between Alec Guinness and Ewan McGregor and bridged the gap between... Because Stanton is just doing a straight-up Alec Guinness impression. Yeah. And it's a good Alec Guinness impression, but it's just a straight-up Alec Guinness impression. And I'm going to say that we actually only have one line. He's like, you're in the wrong place. You know, and it's like, yep, that sounds a lot like Alec Guinness, but James could have done something that was a little bit more nuanced. But... you know, it's like, if it's not James, I'm glad it's not Ewan. So,
yeah.
And again, love Ewan McGregor, obviously, as Obi-Wan, and want him to be in a movie, but, you know, it is what it is.
The one thing that's disappointing about the fact that this is going to be on Rebels is this would have been a cool movie.
Yes.
Like,
yes,
him fighting Darth Maul would have been a neat movie.
It's like, you could have had that happen earlier, and it could be what the movie is about.
Yeah.
But... yeah, can't do that. Gotta have them on the cartoon, but you know, hopefully it'll be good.
Take what you can get.
That's right. I'm take Obi-Wan and Maul fighting however I can get it. If there's any way I can get it, I take it.
That's right.
Take it all of it. Anyway, but yeah, so that's coming down the road. So we have told ourselves that this episode of the podcast is going to be an hour. We've got 6 minutes left. No, okay. We said we could do up to an hour and a half, but we're going to stick to that. So, I guess it's time to talk about the 3 episodes.
Okay.
The episodes are Imperial Supercommandos, or isn't that the title of it? Something Supercommandos?
Yeah, I think so. Supercommandos.
And then the second one is Iron Squadron. Mm-hmm. And then there's the Wynkahthu report. Not really. It's the Wynkahthu Job.
The Wynkahthu Job.
Yeah, but when I think of Wynkahthu, or when I look at that word, I always think of Wynkahthu. And the only good bug is a dead bug.
That's right.
That is a Starship Troopers reference. And if you are younger, you don't need to watch Starship Troopers.
No.
And truthfully, if you're older, you don't really necessarily need to watch it anyway.
If you're younger, you don't need to watch any Paul Verhoeven movies.
No, that's very, very true. He's not a kid-friendly kind of guy. And I definitely do not think Starship Troopers was his strongest movie.
Oh, no, definitely not.
No. I mean,
he directed Total Recall too, didn't he?
I believe that is correct. But I got to look it up. It's important. Great. It's a part of the podcast where they look stuff up on the internet. I hate this podcast. It's absolute garbage.
I hate this part.
Oh, great. Here, I hate this part. Can we just fast forward through this part? Total Recall director.
Not the new one.
I started to type in director, so it was total director. Total Tech. Total Recall was a movie made back in the day. That's right. No, that's the Colin Farrell one. I don't want to look at that. No. I want to look at the real one. Here it is. 1990 film. Yep, directed by Paul Verhoeven. That is correct. From a story by Roald Dahl. No, not really.
Roald Dahl.
Raoul Dahl. Zat Rousdauer. But what we were talking about. Oh, yeah. So don't watch the Verhoeven movies. And I almost feel like Total Recall is probably about as kid-friendly as he's going to get.
Probably so, yeah.
Get ready for a surprise. So, it's not kid-friendly, but it's about as close as it gets. Yeah. So, anyway, where were we going with that? How did we get off on Paul Verhoeven?
The Wynkahthu.
Wynkahthu, yes. Wynkahthu Job.
Wynkahthu.
Yeah, that's right. So we're going to cover 3 episodes in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
10 to 15 to 20 minutes. So the first one is Imperial Supercommandos, which that title, I'm like, really? Supercommandos. So the gist of this episode is you got Finn Rao from one of them Mandalorian clans, and he's sort of in Rebels custody. Of course, we've seen Finn Rao before. And the episode starts off with Sabine Wren coming and visiting him and playing like 3-dimensional
cube chess,
stab the box cube chess thing. It's like, well, it's the Mandalorian, so it's got to be stabby. they stabby people. You know, it's not 3D chess. It's not the what's the table?
Holo chess.
Yeah, holo chess. But I think they've got some term for it. But it's not that.
Sabak.
What's the sticks things that the Vulcans do? Caltophore or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Petit fours, you know. It's not that.
Petticoats.
Petticoat junctions. What's the one that Data did with the Zach Dorn? They basically
I can't remember what the
wiggled
name of
their
that
fingers.
was.
Stratagema.
Stratagema.
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
I busted him up.
That's number 1.
I am not. Yeah, that's number 2. It's like, I am not going to have to nursemaid an android with sort of like self-doubting himself. It's a recurring motif in Star Trek: The Next Generation era is Picard having to tell Data, just grow up.
Yeah.
It's like a Generations. I do not say, you will not be deactivated. Pull it together, Data. Yes, sir. But anyway, they're playing the stabby game.
Stabbing the Borg cube.
Stab the Borg cube. That's right. Take it all, Lore. But Hugh might be on there. What are you doing? And Sabine is, Finn Rao's like, why you come here? And she's like, I want you to join the rebellion. So it's like setting up what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So then the whole episode is like they go to a planet and they meet some other Mandalorians and they're from another clan and the clans don't like each other and Ezra's kind of our window into the world where he's like, what's up with all of these Mandalorians? I don't get it. Yeah. And Finn Rao's able to escape very quickly because apparently he's magic and Houdini, and once Ezra's not looking, get out of his handcuffs. And my lock, my handcuffs, I peeked them. That's from one of our other favorite movies. Yeah. The True Lies. They're gonna shoot us in the head. It's from that same scene too.
Yeah.
But anyway, and so it's kind of it's a tale of intrigue with all these different Mandalorians, and they can't be trusted. And in the end, because Sabine was willing to sacrifice herself for her family, her new clan of the rebellion, Finn Rao decides that he will join the rebellion. And yay. So that's kind of the episode in a nutshell, basically. Yeah. So let's talk about some of the... I know you've got some notes.
A couple.
So what are your notes?
Well, the first thing I had is I don't really care for the design of the
Imperial Supercommandos.
Yeah, the Imperial Supercommandos. It just looks really dorky. Like I don't really have a problem with the helmet thing, but like the triangle chest thing.
There's a little bit of Gizmo Duck influence in there, especially the main guy, because it's like blather and blather sky. Don't worry, Mr. McDuck, I'll save you. I'm like, I actually think Fenton Crackshell pulled it off better than you Mandalorians did too.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
They need to have Gizmo Duck on the new DuckTales show.
I figured they probably will.
Because everybody loves
That's a pretty big deal.
I hope that show's good.
Yeah,
we will see. We will see. But yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I was like, I'm not really in love with the design. And speaking of designs, the facial rigging on main bad guy, who I was like,
That was another thing that's something kind of close to one of the notes I made. Like the scene when Sabine and Finn Rao are up on the kind of the little mountain mountainside thing, and they're looking
top of a mountain, and you're not invited.
They're looking down, like listening in. I think they're listening to the little interrogation going on down there. Like, this show makes me realize just how much I hate CG animation a lot of times.
Yeah,
because, and I think they have this problem even with like CG creatures in movies interacting with live action people. It's like, stop making the character move all the time.
Right.
I realize you have to, do that in a cartoon and everything, or at least in you don't have to do it in most animation, cell animation. You just do it in CG animation, but like you want to give them some kind of life,
so they're not just like mannequins.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, good gracious, stop moving the freaking character.
Yeah. Well, and it's like I think a good example of doing that properly is Jar Jar in episode 1 and 2, when Jar Jar is not the main focus. Because if you pay attention, it's like they're animating him, but they're doing it so subtly that you have to be like, okay, I'm going to watch Jar Jar in this scene that's not about Jar Jar.
Yeah.
He's not distracting because the animation is subtle.
Right.
And again, with Jar Jar is a good example of that also, because Jar Jar was not motion capture.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, yeah, you just had the actors sit there on stage and just kind of be a human, and you'll get little subtle animations. It's like that was all like keyframe stuff.
Yeah.
With Jar Jar back then. So I think it can be done well, but yeah, you can definitely overdo it.
Yeah. And whether it's the face is always constantly moving, like. Even when they're like listening to somebody, like the face is moving.
It's like, would you just calm down?
Yeah, just quit moving. And their head's bobbing after when they say any word they say. It's just constantly moving, and it's like people don't. It's not natural,
right?
Like, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
No, I
maybe
can
I'm just
that.
being, nitpicky.
Maybe I'm just old and get off my lawn. But no, I can definitely see that again. And I think that's an area where I think probably the Clone Wars
did it a lot better.
A lot better.
Yep.
And and we'll talk about this when we get to the Hondo episode. But I liked the stylistic style of Clone Wars better than this show.
Yeah.
That's not to say that I hate and despise every character model. And the design work itself with Killian Plunkin and his team, it's like the designs are good. I liked it in that particular stylistic, lens, if you will, that we were seeing the world of Star Wars through in the Clone Wars. Yeah. And we just don't get that. We don't get that here. I mean, we do still get your Sabine lady.
Right. That's right.
And I think, I mean, the main character, maybe this, I don't know if this is going to influence. Okay, let me say what I was going to say. For me, I think the best character models for my taste in Rebels are Hera, Sabine, and Kanan.
Yeah. I agree.
But those are also my favorite of the characters. So I wonder how much one is influencing the other versus the other influencing the one. But because in the Wynkahthu Job, like the Hera model in particular, I'm like, I really like the Hera model. I think it's a well-made model.
Yeah.
But then, again, Imperial Supercommando leader guy, Gizmo Duck. I was like, but even Finn Rao, I'm like, just it's okay, but I'm not blown away with, and because again, I just that sort of hard edge stylized look and the painterly texture thing I dig on. So there is that. What other notes do you have?
The only other real big one I had was there being Imperial Mandalorians.
Yeah.
And their relation to Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Okay, for one question is, where's Boba Fett right now?
Yeah, exactly, because
he's probably a bounty hunter by this point. In fact, we know he is because we're only I guess a couple of years away from episode 4.
If that long.
He's in episode 4.
Yeah, exactly.
He's apparently kind of worn by episode 4. I mean, his armor's still beat up, and all that good stuff.
He's got a reputation, presumably,
right.
And he's certainly got a reputation in episode 5 that's built up enough that Darth Vader himself has to single him out amongst a whole host of scummy bounty hunters and tell that guy in particular, no disintegrations.
Yeah.
So it's like, that he's, kind of a big deal if Darth Vader's having to tell you, no, don't get crazy.
Yeah.
So where's he at?
And if there are Mandalorians working for the Empire, there's a Mandalorian working for the Rebels.
Now there's 2 because of Finn Rao.
Well, yeah, that's right. Well, and his protectors.
So now there's a whole
bunch of them. So why does nobody think it's odd that there's this rogue Mandalorian out there who's the best bounty hunter in the galaxy and stuff?
And it does kind of take away from that. And I will grant this was sort of an off-screen thing, but that his armor in episode 4 and 5 and 6, it's no one wears that anymore. That's from an extinct, group of people.
Yep.
And so the idea that, oh no, at least as of even a couple of years ago, there's a whole bunch of them running around shooting each other and stuff. It takes away from his mystique.
Yeah, I think so.
That again, I will grant was not an on-screen thing, but I think it's one of the reasons why people liked Boba Fett. It's he's nobody looks like him, and he's got this armor from an older race of people called the Mandalorians, and yada. And it's oh no, there's a bunch of them. Yeah. It does take away
They're
from
working
that.
for the Empire.
That's right. Except for some of them working for the Rebellion. And, it does take away from that. But again, it's also the same thing of the Jedi are all but extincted. You, my friend, are all that's left of their religion. Except, a couple of years ago, there was at least a couple of them running around. This blind guy and a blue-haired kid. So it's I guess it's par for the course. But yeah. And it's funny, as we were watching the episode, see, Josh had already watched it, and then I was watching it right before we recorded. And I was talking about this, Mandalorians working for the Empire. It sort of I don't see the Empire outsourcing things like that to the Mandalorians. And then you said, yeah, and that kind of connects in with a note I've got. And we kept watching it, and at some point, it was with all these Mandalorians, I'm like, yeah, when Boba Fett, hey, wait a minute, and you're like, there you go.
Yep.
You got to my point, and it's it takes away from the uniqueness of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
I think another thing I would mention is that in Star Wars now, in order to fly, all you have to have is horizontal fire. All you have to, even if you are a tin can.
Work for the Rocketeer.
That's right. Come on, the Rocketeer, man. And he got Jennifer. What is her last name?
Connolly,
yes.
That's right.
So it must have worked out pretty well for him. Yeah. But it's like, and because we're talking about this, of course, at the end of the episode when they're having the big fight and flight through the trenches and everything on the dark planet. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah, come on now, really? It's like we're all... Because like the Mandalorians have the cool slick backpacks, which again, Boba Fett doesn't have.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got the cool ones. And it's like, and it's only one little jet. And it's a little jet.
Yeah.
And then you've got, again, Chopper with his one coming out his bottom. And then Sabine's got her pack. And it's like, they're doing this. And I'm like, come on now. And I said, but to be fair, Boba Fett and Jango Fett before him, they had their jetpacks, and so this was something that was done when George was around, I guess, so it's not like a new thing. Yeah. But then you pointed out, except that
it seemed that the jetpack's main purpose was just kind of to, maybe hover or get from one place to the other, really quickly. But it didn't seem like it was built for sustained flight.
Yeah, there was a little bit of sort of horizontal Superman flying in the fight between Obi-Wan and Jango on the platform in Kamino. But it was, as you say, very short. It was like, I'm going to fly down this valley. And it was mainly vertical stuff. Usually the jets were pointed down because, again, for a rocket thrust exhaust to defy gravity, it has to be pointed towards the source of the gravity.
Right.
You're gonna fall and kind of go forward if you.
And then Nick turns into Neil deGrasse Tyson.
That's right. Yeah, Josh's like, no, no one asked you a question, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and I'm like, well, the gravity well is interstellar, and it's like, no one asked you anything, Neil deGrasse Tyson. It's like he's like, hey, do you want me to tell you about the science of that movie right there? No, we don't. I got nothing against you necessarily, but no, we don't. What in Interstellar, just gone. And then he's like, well, and in Martian, I'm like, don't. You leave the Martian alone. But, that's partially because it was pretty well scientifically accurate. Yeah. Do you know that Andy Weir, the author of The Martian, has a pilot that's being made for, I think it's CBS, for a television show about mission control.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is it going to be those people? Like, is it mission control like in the Martian universe?
I don't know.
That'd be neat.
It would be neat. Now it's set more closer to our time frame.
Oh, okay.
But it's not like, I don't think it's the International Space Station. Maybe it is, but I would love it if it's sort of, it makes some nods to what's coming down the pike in The Martian. But yeah, so because I'd been on a little break from Facebook and I got on to do a couple things, and one of the first things I saw was that because Andy posted about it. I'm like, well, good for you, Andy.
Yeah.
So that's kind of exciting. But let's see, where were we? The flying thing. But okay. This is the show. We have documented some of the other scientific things.
Yeah, well, and that's not even the one that I'm like, oh, goodness gracious.
Yeah.
It was the one where they were flying, they were actually in space.
Yes, exactly.
Outside, no space suits.
And hopping from whale to whale.
Yeah, that was dumb.
Yeah, it's like, no, stop. I love you guys, but stop it. It's only so much I could take. And then, of course, look, the Star Killer spit out some gas, and it's traveling faster than the speed of light by like a whole lot of factors, and yet we can all see it, and it's going slow, but boom, it gonna break out into the hives just thinking about it. I'm trying to remember if there were like some good lines in this. You know, I mean, I like Sabine, you know, they're doing all right with their character, but you know, this episode was not ooh la la.
Yeah, there was the thing about her mom.
Yeah, that her mom is working for the Imperial Supercommandos
and
squad or clan.
And then she responds with like, well, if she is, you know, it's because you forced her to, or something like that.
So it's like there could be something interesting there. Yeah. We might see her mama.
Yeah.
Maybe I think it's because you got me confused with your mama. That's a Fresh Prince reference right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was that, and you know, I'm a sucker for bad guys becoming good guys. So Finn Rao, you know, kind of said, okay, given the way you were willing to die for your friends, you haven't lost your ways. I'll join you. Oh, isn't that sweet?
Yeah.
But I've been saying but a lot, but but you dumb butt. No. Yeah, but you
don't have to take my word for it, you dumb butt.
You dumb butt. That's the lyrics to that. That's right. I was just not blown away by this episode.
No.
Like I say, it was okay.
I'm starting to think that Rebels, and you know, here comes some negativity, but it's just the way I feel. Sorry, but it's starting to feel like Rebels is a lot of filler,
right?
And every once in a while, a killer.
Yeah, and we were talking about that earlier. Mm-hmm. You know, with the Clone Wars, it was set during the Clone Wars, this large galactic conflict. And so there were all sorts of opportunities for stories. And given that the show did not require itself to focus on the same group of characters, you know, in every episode, those two things put together meant that you could have an episode that deals with clone cadets, and then an episode that deals with politics, and then an episode that deals with the Jedi fighting a battle in the Clone Wars, and then an episode where the Jedi get sidetracked and have to help out farmers. We are poor farmers. And you know, you could do all of these different things, and you could bring in the Sith, and you could have them be doing things, and not just have, you know, the battle droids, but you could do the battle droids, and you could bring in, you know, Darth Maul and Savage Opress. I mean, there was just, you could do the Mortis trilogy, but it's like just by the very nature of when this show takes place and what's going on in the Star Wars timeline at this point, it sort of limits you. Yeah. You know, they chose to make it about one group of people. And then when it's set, I mean, it's like the first major victory the rebellion has is in Rogue One.
Yeah.
So there's not a whole lot they can do.
And like, you know, we had talked about when we were still doing the Clone Cast and everything, we had talked about how much or how cool we thought it would be if there was a show set in between episodes 3 and 4. Mm-hmm. And, you know, because it was like an unexplored time period. Right. There's nothing there. Come to find out, it's like, apparently this time period ain't very interesting.
Not that exciting.
Or at least when you take George Lucas out of the picture, it ain't very interesting.
Exactly. When you take George Lucas out of the picture and set it just a couple of years before episode 4.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's not, I mean, given the age of Leia in the show, it's probably only 1 or 2 years, I would imagine.
Right. Yeah.
Before it. So, yeah, but the thing is also, it's like, well, what else is going on in the rebellion? There may be some interesting stuff going on that we're
just
not
never get to see,
because we're stuck with this group of characters. And I'm not saying that to be like these characters stink, but again, the Clone Wars had the advantage of, hey, you want to tell a story about Obi-Wan's ex-girlfriend that's the queen of the Mandalorians, and the Mandalorians were all warriors, but now they're peaceful. Let's do that.
Yeah.
And then you want to do a story about like basically zombie bugs. Yeah, let's do that. And then we'll do like a body snatchers thing. And then well, then then you do the safe picture, and then you do the payback picture. And then we'll do a droid episode where they're with out in the void. I mean, the very nature of it allowed for more stuff going on if you weren't yet ready to have an episode in the overarching narrative.
Right.
But here it's like, well, if we're not going to do a story in the overarching narrative, what are we going to do?
Right.
And so,
and see, I wonder. Of course, I know we have something coming, or an episode coming up that we're going to cover, not today, but on another episode, about something that leads the crew to Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
So are they actually going to go talk to Obi-Wan Kenobi? Are they gonna actually go to Tatooine, or are we just gonna get an episode where it's just like, here's Obi-Wan?
Yeah, I wonder,
because like that's how most of the show would be neat if it were structured.
Yeah, it's like, and now here's what Obi-Wan's doing. Now here's where Admiral Akbar is. Now you don't have to bring the crew of the Ghost in to do it,
right? Which
is the way structurally the show is set up. Mm-hmm. That's what you have to do now. And it would be weird to be like, oh, here's an episode where it's Obi-Wan.
Well, I mean, you notice, like Star Wars has really never been that way. Star Wars has never really been, even in the movies, it's not, let's just focus on these couple of characters right here throughout the entire movie.
Right.
It jumps around a lot.
Yeah. You introduce a group, but then they're going their own separate ways. They're doing their own things. They maybe come together at the end. But, and you're also doing more with the villains. I mean, this show does not... We don't see the villains just hanging out being villains much.
Right.
It's only when the good guys are there, by and large. I mean, I know there are going to be a few exceptions to that. But whereas in the Clone Wars, it's like, here's what Dooku and Palpatine are doing. Mm-hmm. And although, of course, yes, it connects in with what the heroes are doing, but it's like the whole Night Sisters thing. That was just a bunch of dark side stuff.
Yeah.
So in the one sense, it's not like, well, these writers are just boring. Part of it is
they're kind of just limited.
They're limited. They're boxed in by the decision to focus on one group of characters, and then by what has to happen in the Star Wars timeline. Mm-hmm. And I think without either, you get rid of either of those restrictions, and it would really open it up a lot. But at this point, you
I think really they missed their window for that.
Yeah.
It's like if they would have done that in the first season.
Yeah.
Like, let's say the show was going to introduce the crew of the Ghost. They'll be, our main focus of the show. But we're still going to jump around and everything. Like, let's see what this place is doing over in, the time in between the two episodes. But, it'll all eventually come back to the Ghost. Kind of like in Clone Wars, it all eventually came back to
Anakin, Obi-Wan, and
Ahsoka.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we'd get episodes. I like it, like the season 3 episode with, what was the name of the episode? The one where we had the Academy of Clone Troopers.
Yeah.
I mean, that episode did not feature any of the main cast that I can remember.
Yeah. Or even like the season 1 episode where we met Domino Squad for the first time. Mm-hmm. The most that we got in terms of known characters in that episode, if I'm remembering properly, were Cody and Rex.
Yeah.
And they just sort of showed up at the end.
Mm-hmm.
There were several. There's another couple of episodes. The Pong Krell episodes.
Yeah.
The Darkness on Umbara arc. You had, I think there was some of the Domino Squad there. But that was it. I mean, it's like there wasn't like Obi-Wan or anything.
Like basically what you do is in that first season, you set up main characters. You set up the crew of the Ghost. Then you set up some other characters somewhere else. You set up some other character somewhere else, and then
you can bounce back and forth.
You can bounce back and forth throughout the entire series.
Yep.
And then at some points have them connect to each other, or have them not connect all to each other till the very end.
Yeah. But it gives you more freedom.
Yeah, and it gives you more of a scope of what's going on. It's like we see now, like with the crew of the Ghost, like really all we're able to see is them infiltrating someplace, stealing something. Or, in the case of, one of the next episodes we're going to cover, a heist with Hondo.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's pretty much all you get. Like, every now and then you get episodes that are Jedi focused with...
yeah.
with Kanan and Ezra.
I'm Yoda. Remember that guy? I'm Yoda.
But, you don't get a lot of room for variety.
Right. Exactly.
There. So you don't see what's going on in the rest of the galaxy. Like just for example, like the rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we don't see the rebellion that much. Like the fleet.
Exactly.
We don't see what the fleet's going through. We just see the fleet from the Ghost's perspective, which is a little small family,
right,
in this huge or potentially huge outfit.
Right. They show up and it's like, okay, we get a little glimpse. We got to go over and get some supplies, and then we're on a supply mission. It's like, Sephiroth left this one town and went to another town, so we got to go to that town. Now Sephiroth, I'm going to use both pronunciations. Sephiroth went to another town. We got to go to that town. That's Final Fantasy VII reference, and it's also something of a criticism of the story of Final Fantasy VII. Sorry, hashtag get over it. I'm old school. I gave 7 a shot, but I'm a 4 and 6, and then even more 8 and 9 and 10 fan. But anyway,
ties into something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, like as it pertains to Star Wars, but as it relates to Final Fantasy. With Star Wars, with Rebels, with Episode 7, with Episode 8, all this stuff that's coming out, this new EU and stuff. Like, I'm going to like it. Like, because I'm a Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
So I like all things Star Wars. But there are things that I love more than others. And, there are some things that I don't love, I just like.
Right.
Final Fantasy is the same way. It's like, I don't think Final Fantasy VII is terrible.
No.
I don't think it's the worst thing on the planet. I do think Final Fantasy 13 is one of the worst things on the planet. I hated that game. But, like, everything else Final Fantasy is like, since I'm a Final Fantasy fan,
there's usually enough in there to enjoy.
Yeah. But I just like some more than others.
Right.
But
not me. I hate 7. No, I'm kidding. I think 7 had a lot of potential. I feel like it.
I think it falls apart at a point.
It does. And I think the opening is strong. From the first raid on Midgar, and then he falls down to the lower levels and he meets Aerith or Eris, depending on how pretentious you are. I'm kidding. And all of that, and escape for Shinra and the helicopters and all that. And then there's a certain point, ironically enough, when you get to the overworld map, which is usually like usually in a Final Fantasy game, it's like that's when it really gets going. But that's when the game starts to kind of wander off.
You learn some
loses narrative focus.
Like, I would say where it really falls apart, like it starts kind of breaking away there, but when it really falls apart is the second disc.
Yeah.
Second disc is just like, oh no.
Yeah. we have lost molecular cohesion.
Yeah.
And
But
it is what it is.
What it is.
So, like, point being that this episode, it established that some of the Mandalorians are now working with the rebels, and that some are working for the Empire. But beyond that, it's just kind of, I didn't hate it. But I wasn't excited about it.
Right. I wasn't like, holy crap.
And it's like, and again, it's like, I like Sabine. When Ezra's not holding the idiot ball, I like Ezra.
Yeah.
And
that's something we were talking about while we were watching the episode. Ezra is a very, very inconsistent character.
Very malleable, depending upon what the writers need him to be.
Sometimes he's a dope. Sometimes he has little glimpses of heroicness.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's got I'm an idiot hanging out with Darth Maul because I think this is the way to do things. Like, and it flip flops back and forth all the time.
Yeah, it really does.
With no consistency whatsoever.
Yeah. I actually thought that the 2 episodes that I saw were some of the better ones in terms of there wasn't a whole lot of divergence between the 2, but that is sort of the exception to the rule, if you will. And so, like the beginning when Ezra's playing stabby chess with Finral, that's what I'm calling it, stabby chess.
Sabine was playing.
That's what I meant to say. Yeah, Sabine was playing. It's like, okay, I'm digging this. I mean, Finn Ralph's kind of whatever, forgettable to some extent, but I like Sabine. This is good. Then they're going to go on the thing, okay, but then it just kind of, it hit a certain point when I'm like, okay. Yeah. That's that. So the next episode, then, is Iron Squadron. So Josh watched it, has watched it, and I did not, so we were watching the episodes to get ready for the podcast, and I turn it on the DVR, and there's nothing. It's like, it's all this blackness. Oh no, here it comes. I'm dripping with good. This is Vigo, mother of a living God. No, sites are available in the gift shop. Everything you are doing is bad. I want you to know this.
Oh, I love you too.
I love you too. Janos Poha. Look it up. It's a great movie.
Look it up.
Look it up. Oh, yes. Oh, but I would. Perhaps, take you to dinner. No, it's okay. It's okay. I just, I thought you were doing something. Anyway. Yeah, that was what he said. Sure, Nick. But so there was all this blackness. The DVR messed up. So I didn't see the episode. So Josh is going to talk about this one.
Yeah, well, I'm going to need you to read the summary for that one, or the little short one.
Yes.
And I can give you my notes that I've got.
All right, so let me look that up. Y'all hear my phone, don't you? That's the sound of Samsung goodness.
Samsung will blow up in your face.
Not this one. This one don't blow up.
Not this one. This don't have the blow up feature.
This one's safe. This one's 3 laws safe. It's like iRobot and Bicentennial Man and stuff. Okay, so let's see. Lars Mikkelsen is in it. Oh yes, I am so disappointed that I missed exciting Thrawn. So, let's see. The official description is, the Ghost crew encounters 3 young rebels while Thrawn plots a trap for his enemies. Let's see. Is this the short one? No, this is not the short summary. I don't want to read the short summary. I want to read the short summary, and that is not a short. Goodness, that is not a short summary. Really, that's like an essay for, graduate school.
And people that are listening are thinking, yes, that's what we want you to do.
That's right. Hey, don't judge us. Let's see. I'm gonna do on Wikipedia. Because Wikipedia is like, let me give you a play-by-play of every moment. Let's see.
And refer to everybody by their last name.
Yes. Isn't that weird? Why are there 3 links on Google? I typed in Iron Squadron, Star Wars Rebels, Wikipedia. The first 3 links are all to the Wikipedia article. There are 3 separate links or returns to the same article. Well, I'm having trouble finding a non-long summary here.
Well, there should be one just the episode summary on the season page on Wikipedia.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah. Okay, here it is. Here's the one. Yep. Here it is. Iron Squadron.
Mm-hmm.
A boy and Louis Gossett Jr. have to fight to get in the airplane in order, in champions.
That's Iron Eagle.
Oh, my bad. Is it Iron Eagle 1, 2, 3, 4? The legend continues.
All of them.
All of the above. Iron Squadron. The Ghost crew arrives at a planet to help evacuate anti-Imperial dissidents. They are assisted by another armed freighter that identifies itself as Iron Squadron. Commander Sato, he's probably going to have to die because he was not in Rogue One.
No, he was not.
Commander Sato is he Hoshi's daddy?
Maybe.
Explains that Iron Squadron used to be led by his brother, but he was killed in combat, leaving the squadron under the leadership of his headstrong nephew, Mart. First name Wall. While the rest of the crew evacuate the dissidents, Ezra and Sabine... Oh, by the way, we forgot to mention that at one point in the other episode, when Sabine was flying and Ezra had to hold on to her, that was like the highlight of his life.
Probably.
Like, I'm holding a lady. Ezra and Sabine board Iron Squadron's ship and meet Mart and his crew. However, they are young and inexperienced, and their hyperspace drive is inoperable. When Thrawn learns of Iron Squadron, he sends a large force. Ezra, Sabine, and Mart's crew flee while Mart stays behind to fight the Imperial... Shut up, Thrawn. Fight the Imperial... Get on with it! I have to go. Yes, to the bathroom, we know. Would you just go? I have to go to the little Chiss's room. Let's see. Stays behind to fight the Imperials, but his freighter is disabled. Oh, does it get the handicap placard? Green Giant. The Ghost Crew and Commander Sato return to rescue Mart and barely manage to escape Thrawn's ambush. Now safe, Mart and his friends decide to join the rebels. So everybody's deciding to join the rebels.
Yeah.
Okay. What were your notes on that?
So the ship that they find old Mart on, like when I saw it, I was like, "Holy crap! Is that the Outrider?" Because I mean, it's the same type of ship, and you know they're not telling who's on the ship and all this
so
stuff.
You're like Dash Rendar.
I bet it's Dash Rendar. And you know they call it out as a YT 2400 freighter. I was like, "There we go."
That's it.
And then.
Bunch of kids.
I'm thinking if that's young Dash Rendar, I'm gonna poop. I'm just gonna poop.
Just let y'all know.
And then they get on the ship, or actually they Sato talks about. I think it's Sato talks about who it is and all that stuff. It's his nephew, and he mentions him by name. And I was like, well, maybe that's the captain of the ship is his nephew, but maybe one of the members of the crew is Dash Rendar.
Nope.
None of the above. The ship is not the Outrider. In fact, I don't even know that the ship has a name. I don't remember them saying anything about it. None of the three characters that are on the ship are Dash Rendar, and so I was super disappointed.
Yeah, because we like Dash.
Yeah, it's
like if you're going to do all this fan service, if you're going to be like, look, we brought the Mandalorians fighting each other and the clans and everything back, you know, and we brought Darth Vader in, and we brought in we brought in Thrawn. It's like, won't you bring in Dash Rendar? Won't you give some love to us 90s kids?
Yeah.
80s and 90s kids. How about that? What, you know, why not?
Well, I mean, I was just thinking, you know, if you're gonna put the Outrider in, or an Outrider looking ship,
that class of ship,
like, and you're gonna make it somewhat featured because the Outrider was also in episode 4,
right?
Special edition.
Yes.
If you're gonna do that, go full tilt.
Exactly.
Put the character that's supposed to be in the Outrider in the Outrider and call it the freaking Outrider.
Because you kind of got the impression that the inclusion of the Outrider in episode 4 was intended to subtly say, yep, Dash is canon. And that's his ship. So why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you can do it later. Be like, yeah. You remember
that
you know,
ship?
Here's a cooler one.
Maybe Dash Rendar steals that ship.
Maybe.
And makes it the Outrider.
Christens it the Outrider. Gets his little droid, and they go, and he's got his theme. Bom, 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 bom. So there you go. Any other notes? You're like,
yeah, I got a few. There was a point, I can't remember exactly what they were talking about, but there's a point where Rex shows up over a holo transmission, and you know, this had nothing to do with the episode, but it made me think about something that I've thought about since episode 3. Why does the rebellion in episode 4 not freak the stink out when a guy named Luke Skywalker joins their side? Like, why? I mean,
it's like no one seems to think, hey, wait a minute. That,
you know, that guy that was like the you know, big kind of hero of the Clone Wars. You know, Anakin Skywalker, let me put 2 and 2 together. Oh, wait.
They might be related. And he came from what? Tatooine? And isn't that where Anakin
General Skywalker came from?
Yeah, it's like, yeah. Because that's the thing. like, Rex knew that stuff.
Yeah.
So the rebellion...
Did he just not tell anybody in the rebellion?
Oh, crap. I forgot to tell them. Now I feel awkward because everybody's like, oh, whatever, some kid, and I know it's a big deal, but if I tell them, like, what did you tell us earlier? I'm just going to have to hide it. It's really awkward, but that's what we have to do.
Even if you take Clone Wars out of the picture.
Yeah.
Like, and you take, even if you take Rex as a character out of the picture.
It's like somebody you would have thought.
Somebody knows about the Skywalker name. I mean, you can't always assume that Skywalker is just a, kind of like Smith in the Star Wars universe.
Everybody's named that.
But.
And of course, Bail Organa could have done it had Bail Organa not been blown up.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but R2-D2 would be like, hey, y'all, guess what? Nobody understands me, but guess what? Guess what? It's a callback to Clone Wars.
But
our show, that is. Clone Cast.
So there's that. There's a little bit of Star Wars inconsistency overall.
Right.
George Lucas or not.
That's
a little bit of weirdness.
Yeah. It's like, what you doing there?
Yeah.
I think maybe you would try to say that it's like, well, all the records were destroyed and nobody really remembered the time of the Clone Wars because people were like, oh, no one knows about Jedi anymore. But again, really, there's nobody that knows anything about there being a hero of the Clone Wars named Skywalker.
Yeah. Did Hera's daddy never tell her about him?
That's a good point. It's like, I fought with this guy and he was pretty cool. and he had like a scar on his face and stuff.
Yeah.
He was really cool. He had a scar and everything. Yeah.
But anyway, there's a point when when Sato and I think it's Hera are arguing about who should go back and get the kid because like they get separated.
Okay.
And to save them from Imperial attack, the captain dude, what is his name again? Mart. Like he puts them in the Phantom, I think it is. Puts them in the Phantom and makes them jump to hyperspace to get away, and he's trying to sacrifice himself and save. But anyway, the Empire circles him, and it's basically trying to draw them back to come get him, and because they think they'll bring the fleet with them. Sato and Hera are having this argument about who should go back and get him, and it's like, and I say an argument, it's like a couple of lines between the two of them. Hera is like, or he's like, I'll go get him because he's my nephew and everything. I'm the only family he's got. And then Hera's like, you're too far away. And he's basically like, okay. And he just doesn't go.
So it's kind of
not only that, when Hera and them go back and go to get him, then like seriously, 5 minutes later, Sato shows up.
Wow!
It's like, there was no. You were 5 minutes. He could have waited 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Like we can't wait 5 minutes. And so it's kind of like you've made your point.
Yeah, it was exactly like
it's an Optimus Prime there moment.
Yeah,
that's a deep cut there in terms of a reference.
But
those kinds of things. There's one in the next episode where actually there's a couple where it's like, well, but that only seems to be there for drama's sake.
Yeah.
And to make the plot move when it needs to move.
Yeah.
So.
But that was all the notes I really had on that one. I mean, it was in my opinion, it was a better episode than Imperial Supercommandos.
Gotcha. But mainly that's because of the appearance of an Outrider.
Yeah, and it was kind of a neat little story to have these three kids that were fighting back against the Empire in a ship that didn't even have a hyperdrive because it was broken. And they were just flying around
in that one star system.
Yeah, and that was a cool little idea.
Kind of neat.
But
so did the Outrider, but not Outrider, look nice though? I mean, I just saw the little tiny clip of it in the preview.
Yeah. It looked good. I can't remember if the big cannons were on the top of it, top and bottom.
Right.
I I'm not sure about that, Peter.
Well, that's a problem. You never can be. Sometimes you meet a nice ship, Starman, E.T. Usually just turns out to be some big lizard. Good movie. World of the Psychic. What's your other favorite one? Bassmasters. You know Bassmasters? Yeah, I know Bassmasters. So great. Nobody can pull off lovable jerk.
No.
The way that Bill Murray can.
No. No.
And that's why he was so perfect in Groundhog Day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because you had to, at the beginning of that movie, be like, this Phil Connors guy's a jerk, but I kind of want to root for him.
Mm-hmm.
And then believe that he could make the transformation that he did by the end.
Yep.
And that's why he was a great Venkman.
Yep.
Hairless pants. Weird. So, the World of Psychic until next time. It's like, no respectable psychic will come on your show. They think you're a fraud. I am a fraud. So good. So, then now we get to the Wynkahthu Job.
Yes.
So, this episode involves good old Hondo. Mm-hmm. And so, Josh, you said that it seems like somebody at working on Rebels really likes Hondo.
It really likes Hondo.
Because he shows up a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
So
and maybe it's Dave Filoni.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe that's Filoni's character.
He's like, you know what? This is a Clone Wars character. We're going to keep bringing him back. And that actually speaks to something, going back to our point about it being a lot of filler. It seems, for me anyway, like it's like, yeah, you've got filler, and then you're trying to sort of make things interesting. The best that you can do if you're not having a big story beat in this, story arc of the Rebels is bringing in Clone Wars stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we'll interest this up by having Rex in here, by Ahsoka, or by, Hondo, or, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
The Mandalorians, in some sense, kind of harken back to that Shem Syndulla. And so it's kind of, it's almost like, what Mitch Hedberg said about advertisements for Ritz crackers. They're like, you could put a piece of cheese on top of it. You could put a little slice of ham on there. It's like they don't have any faith in the product itself. I didn't get Ritz crackers because I want little edible plates. I want to eat crackers. And the same way, it's like, well, we don't really have we can't move to the big next point. Well, let's just throw a Clone Wars character in there. Yeah. Or something like that. I'm being a little cynical just for fun, but I think maybe there's a little bit of that. But hey, it's like, it worked because I'm like, hey, Hondo. Yeah. But also, Hondo is an interesting character.
He is.
And had some great lines in this episode. But so the whole idea is that Hondo and the big roly-poly red guy from back earlier that wanted Hera
for another heist episode.
Yeah, and wanted Hera to be, it was his slave, are teaming up with Ezra because there's a ship that Hondo has just randomly happened to have come upon that's got some proton bombs on it, and so they're going to go get it. And there's some treasure on it that the two pirates can salvage.
And then should have called this episode Hondo's Treasure Island.
That's right. Oh, very good. Or Fantasy Island, since he's kind of doing a Ricardo Montalban thing. Yeah. But so they get there and come to find out that there's some sneaky person in the ship, and it's an Ugnaught, and it's one of Hondo's crew. Yep. And so it turns out that Hondo had tried to take the ship already. It failed, and so he tried to get the rebel gang to help him out. And they get the stuff at the end, the proton bombs and stuff, and the treasure that Hondo and the other guy were fighting over, the big treasure box, the only treasure box they were able to salvage from the ship, turns out to just be the Ugnaught. Yeah. And he's like, oh yeah, that's just better than treasure, I guess. Sure. But so that's the episode in a nutshell. Yeah. So what were some of your thoughts on this one?
I liked a lot of Hondo's lines, particularly the stuff with Kanan.
Oh goodness!
About don't be blind.
He's like, don't be blind to this opportunity. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say. And then he's like, I knew you would come to see it. I did it again. It's like, and the fact that it's like when he says the blind thing, like the camera cuts to to Kanan, and he kind of nods his head like he knows what's coming.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't. It's like,
and then there was the other one towards the end that was my favorite, where Ezra's talking about, he didn't lie, he just didn't tell us all of the truth, and like really quick. The funny part of it is how quick he is to jump to that line. He's like, right, and some of the truth is better than none of the truth.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing about Hondo. He's an interesting character. Yeah. And again, played with great panache and pizzazz, which helps, and he's got great lines, but he's the kind of character you can give the good lines to. Yeah. And you know that...
like, and all of his little lines, like towards the end, like with the Ugnaught and like the... he's always joking around. It's always playing. Like, that kind of stuff is really good, and it's almost like... It feels like that a lot of his lines are being improvised. Yeah. They're probably not, but they come off that way.
Which is partially good because he's so good at what he does. And why am I blanking on his name, by the way?
I can't remember his name either.
Winnie the Pooh. I mean, it's I'm gonna look it up now because he's also Tigger. Interestingly,
he's Tigger too.
Yes, very good. He's Winnie the Pooh and Tigger too. Winnie the Pooh voice. Winnie the Pooh voice.
It used to be that guy. Do you remember? You remember the episode of the Andy Griffith Show?
Yep.
You remember the one with the guy that you know what I'm talking about?
Sterling Holloway.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was that guy.
But now it's Jim
Lindsay
Cummings.
Also in
that's Andy George Griffith. Goober Lindsay. Jim Cummings. And so Jim's just he's great. So he just brings so much to that character that you wonder, it's like, well, are those good ad libs on his part, or good writing and great delivery? And there was another couple in there that again, those kind of throwaway things like, oh, he's always joking. Oh, there's one that in particular is like, that's good, but I can't remember now what it was. But yeah, he always livens the mood. He kind of he and it's not just because he's a Clone Wars character. No. That helps, but it's not just that. He's also just... But like the other guy, the red guy, like he's not a Clone Wars character, but he was interesting. Yeah. And the whole point, because towards the end there's a security droid that is stalking them, and they're hiding from it, and he sees Hondo's gun, and he can't help it, the red fat guy, and he grabs it and he shoots it, and he actually kills the droid, or deactivates the droid. He's like, did you see it? I'm the hero. And then Alan Rickman comes on and is like, no, because now the others are going to be activated. And wah, wah, wah. But yes, for me, I think Hondo was definitely one of the highlights of the episode. What other notes do you have?
Well, here's a question. Do you think that the heist for weapons, or just searching for weapons, plot thread is getting kind of thin?
Well, it's kind of like we got to get more gas. For a while, every episode was, where are we going to get our gas at? And now it's where we're going to get our boom boom at. Yeah. Yes,
some people say that boom boom is like it has some kind of sexual commentary.
Oh well, I didn't mean that.
You want to go get our boom boom tonight, baby?
I don't know. Where are we gonna find it? How about boomsticks?
Okay,
there
we go.
And boom bombs.
Yeah.
Bombay, so all Bombay. But yeah, it can be like, okay, we get it. This one worked because it had the fun heist thing going on. But no, I completely agree. You can only do that for so long, and it's like, okay.
That's the reason they eventually changed the plot of Transformers G1 episodes from Megatron trying to get Energon all the time for no apparent reason.
Yeah. He's like, I'm just hanging out in the ocean and I want Energon. Just to make people mad.
They really shot themselves in the foot with that show by having the first couple of episodes be them getting away from the planet. That was the point of that arc of episodes, was like, we've got to get Energon to leave the Decepticons wanted to get Energon to either take over the world or get back to Cybertron and take it over. Yeah. The Autobots just wanted to get back home. And after that, that's just really kind of not mentioned anymore.
Yeah, it's like, nope, now the Decepticons are just hanging out in the ocean. Megatron's like, who do I want to mess with today? I don't know. Who should I miss? I can't even do a Megatron voice, but that's like it. And Optimus is like,
we were supposed to go home.
Yeah. We were supposed to go home, but apparently...
In fact, we did leave. We did leave, but we came back, apparently. And crashed into the same mountain.
Same mountain. It just worked out perfectly. And he's like, you know what? I think Megatron's going to stay and just kind of cause mischief, so I guess we'll stay too. What do you think? Oh, and by the way, don't wake up Power Glide or Spacey. Not Spacey. That's Cosmos. Don't wake some of them up yet. We'll maybe like next year we can wake them up.
Right.
Aerial bots, let's not do that yet. Because that's the thing, it's like the Dino bots, it's like, okay, they're here now because Wheeljack made them.
Right.
But then it's like Cosmos and Power Glide, they just showed up.
Yeah, they never
It's like, hey guys, I was in the corner over here.
Yeah.
It's like Minkus towards the end of when they were graduating high school.
Yeah.
At with Boy Meets World.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, he's been here the whole time. Hey, there's so same kind of thing.
Yeah.
But so Hondo, wanted money.
Yeah.
What other notes you got?
I think that's all the notes I have for that episode. And they were that's not stuff we didn't already cover.
Yeah. So a couple of those plot issues.
Yeah. The thing with the cables.
Yeah. There's the thing with the cables. That's the last one. The other one that happens a little bit before that is when the Alan Rickman droid, who, Josh, you're like, yeah, apparently he just hangs out here and we didn't know.
Yeah.
Is saying when they're like, there's something in this ship and it's trying to get us. And he's like, yes, it's a security droid. I recommend you don't engage with it. And they're like, you could have told us there was a security droid here before. Well, I didn't. Well, why not? Well, because it would have been different and you wouldn't have had that plot moment before anybody like, now watch out because there may be some security droids in there. You know? So then they do engage it and, again, fat guy blows it up. Yay! And then he's like, told you not to do so because it's going to activate all the others. Well, why didn't you tell him that then? Because of the plot.
Yep.
But the big one is, they all get off the ship. And Hondo's like, I'm going to get there first. And the guy's like, it doesn't matter. It's not a race. And so they get on the ship, and then it's time for...
Ezra was being a jerk this episode, by the way.
Well, he was, but on the other hand, sometimes I agreed with his skepticism of some of the things that Zeb was doing.
I agree with the skepticism, but you ain't got to be jerk about
the way you go about it. Yeah, exactly. We can disagree without being disagreeable.
Exactly.
Look it up, Ezra.
Look it up.
And so they get off the ship last, and the apparently the security droids are like, also like, well, we don't like you, so it's not just that you're off the ship, we're happy, we want you to die. So they shoot the thing. And so that the cable falls. You gotta let the cable sleep. That's the song. And so anyway, they're like, we gotta get him. So blind Kanan goes out there and he's able to grab them and pull them up, and they're like, okay, we've got him in the ship now. Okay, you can cut the other line. Why couldn't you cut the other line already?
Yeah.
There's no reason that I knew of. And I said something about it, and Josh was like, yeah, as in you'd wondered that too.
Yeah. It's
like there's no real reason, because there was 2 lines, but they weren't getting stuff off the ship anymore. So you didn't need the lines for that reason. The one line was already cut because that's the line they were dangling from. There's no reason to have the other line. Okay, now we can release it.
Yeah.
There was no point. And then another thing about the lines is there were, I know that the cargo ship was headed down to something bad, There's something bad down there. I thought it was in a high orbit, but then it was acting like it was getting scraped up. But anyway, the ghost had to be above it, and I guess it's because of whatever that dangerous thing was. But at first that wasn't clear to me, so I'm like, why doesn't the ghost fly a little bit lower than this other ship?
Yeah.
That way you don't have to fight gravity to get stuff down the pulleys.
There you go, being Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah, that's right. Get out of here, Neil deGrasse Tyson. We don't need you. So I was like, come on, guys. But yeah, so like I say, I thought Hondo was a fun episode.
Yeah.
So it took the we've got to get more supplies story and made it something fun to watch. And I'm still trying to remember what that other thing was that Hondo said that amused me, but I can't remember. I cannot remember what it was. It was something about the. Well, no, I know he's like, no, I didn't. Of course, I didn't want to leave him. There's like family to me, and all that. And then when he punches him like in the gut,
yeah.
But that's not it. There was something, but I don't remember what it was. So, oh well.
But yeah, I think out of the 4 episodes I watched, and we're not going to cover 4, but not in this episode. But out of the 4 episodes I watched, this one was the best.
Yeah.
For sure. Because the next one I didn't really care for it either.
What's that one called?
I'm sorry.
It's all right. It is what it is.
The next one is the I'll read you the direct TV.
Oh yes.
Little thing I wrote down. Ezra and Kanan infiltrate an Imperial factory on Lothal, but must trust an unlikely ally to escape. We have seen that plot
before
a whole bunch before. Yeah. I mean, we've even got dressing up like stormtroopers again. But I mean, there were some cool things in it, but overall, I was just like, I don't really care because I've seen it
before. Yeah.
But yeah.
It's funny, at one point Zeb showed up in this episode, like early on, and maybe it was the other one, but like he came through the door and I'm like, you're a disappointment. Because I'm like, he's not.
Your mother and father hate you.
That's right. They really, really wish that they had not wasted all their money on you now. But just because that was a character that for me so far has not reached, I think, what the potential could have been for him.
Yeah.
So I was like, you're a disappointment. And then, of course, with Ezra, it's like, boy, just stop it. It's like on the Mandalore episode. It's like, we got to find a way to, do the right thing here. And it's like, Ezra, don't be thinking you can talk to some spiders to help you out.
Yeah.
Well, so that's that. Those are the 3 episodes. We're going to do, multiple episodes, and we're going to record a little bit more to try to get caught up. And
that's another thing. Don't be surprised if the next episodes we do are bad quality.
Because
it's audio quality. Because we'll probably be doing them over Skype, and my internet connection is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to do what we got to do to get caught up. So
that's right. It's funny though. You know what? We could probably. How is your cell service?
My cell service is fine.
Because if we want to try to risk it without looking at each other, then we could just talk on the phone, and I could just take the output from my phone and route it through the mixer, and basically do what we do now: put you through the telephone on one channel and me on the other. And I would have my headphones on, and I could hear you that way, and I'd have the phone right here, so I'd be talking to you.
Yeah.
And I think the audio quality is going to be, as good at least as Skype given your internet.
Yeah. And it'd be a lot more consistent.
Exactly. That's the big thing.
Wouldn't have any dropouts.
Right. So that's probably what we will do.
Okay.
Be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little phone conversation.
It'd be like a phone interview.
That's right. I've read on the phone here, Josh Shaw. No, it's Cal Ripken Jr.
I'm sorry, I got it wrong.
I apologize. Well, then, anything else?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. We were gonna do an hour to an hour and a half. We did 2 hours, but for us, that's pretty. We covered 3 episodes, and we ragged on JJ and Hans Zimmer. We got all of our usual stuff in, and we did it with one more episode of the show, and we did it in 2 hours, which is like
record
not
time.
As long. Yeah, so that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Well, thanks for listening. Keep those emails and comments
not coming
because you're not doing it. So, but maybe you will change it and make them. We'd love them, and so do that. David will tell you how that you can reach us, and Ben Burt is the man.
Sure he is,
because we gotta mention Ben Burt.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
peace.
Peace out. No. What we say is, I'm Nick Weymouth.
And I'm Josh Shaw.
And we will see you in the future.
Peace.
We don't.
Rebels Cast is not endorsed by Lucasfilm Limited or Disney and is intended for entertainment purposes only. Star Wars and all Star Wars items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited or their respective copyright or trademark holders. You can email Nic and Josh at rebelscastsmg@gmail.com, join the Rebels Cast Facebook page, visit their website at innerdorkdom.com, and visit southgatemediagroup.com to enjoy podcast content covering the entire spectrum of entertainment. For everyone at Rebels Cast, I'm Microsoft David. Thanks for listening and may the Force be with you. End of line.
I was going to tell him.
Well, I wanted to tell him now.
Okay.